Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about one of the most dramatic geopolitical developments of the year, the United Kingdom taking decisive action that could finally cripple one of Vladimir Putin's last remaining lifelines. The UK has moved with speed and precision to deliver what many are calling a strategic masterstroke against Russia. It's not about tanks or missiles, this time it's about energy, money, and the power that flows from both. Russia's economy runs on oil and gas. For years, that's been its greatest weapon and its greatest weakness. Even after the invasion of Ukraine and multiple rounds of sanctions, Russia managed to survive by finding loopholes, creating hidden networks, and selling its oil through shadow fleets and sympathetic intermediaries. That kept money flowing into the Kremlin's war chest, but now the UK has decided to go after that hidden system directly, and the consequences could be devastating for Moscow. This isn't just another round of symbolic sanctions. Britain's new measures are targeted, sophisticated, and global in reach. They focus on cutting off Russia's covert oil export channels, the ones that allowed Putin to quietly keep selling crude through third countries. The UK government has sanctioned dozens of tankers, logistics companies, and financial intermediaries connected to these networks. Many of these entities were based outside Russia in places like Dubai, Singapore, and even India, but were secretly helping move Russian oil to international markets. The UK move came after months of intelligence gathering, satellite tracking, and financial investigation. London identified a web of companies that disguised the origin of Russian oil by blending it with other crude, rebranding shipments, or using fake paperwork to bypass restrictions. These tactics had become Russia's lifeline, a way to keep its economy afloat despite Western isolation. By shutting these down, the UK is not just punishing Russia, it's dismantling the system that has kept the Kremlin funded through war. What makes this move even more significant is how it closes the loopholes other sanctions left open. While the US and EU have already imposed price caps and restrictions on Russian exports, enforcement was inconsistent. Many countries kept buying cheap Russian oil through middlemen. The UK sanctions, however, are built to hit those middlemen directly, including insurers, port operators, and refiners that handle or process Russian origin crude. One major example is the new sanctions on certain Indian and Chinese firms that bought Russian oil and sold refined products back to Europe. The UK declared that any refined product, even if processed elsewhere, will be banned if it originates from Russian crude. This changes everything. For months, Russia was using India as a backdoor to sell its oil. India would import it, refine it, and export it as Indian fuel. Now that door is closing fast. At the same time, the UK has frozen assets belonging to top Russian energy companies like Rosneft and Lukoil, preventing them from accessing British financial markets. Key executives have also been banned from traveling to the UK or engaging in any business there. This sends a clear message. No one connected to Russia's energy empire will be allowed to operate freely in the West anymore. The blow to Russia is enormous. Energy exports make up over 40% of Moscow's federal revenue. Without this income, Russia's ability to fund its war in Ukraine, maintain its military machine, and stabilize its economy becomes severely limited. Analysts already estimate that Moscow could lose tens of billions in revenue over the coming months if these sanctions are fully enforced. Putin's government has tried to play down the impact, but behind the scenes the pressure is mounting. The ruble has been weakening, inflation is rising, and the Russian budget deficit has ballooned. Military spending now consumes nearly half of the federal budget, leaving little for infrastructure, healthcare, or social programs. The UK's latest move could push that strain to the breaking point. For years, Russia relied on what Western analysts called the shadow fleet, hundreds of oil tankers operating under obscure flags, with hidden ownership and no insurance from major firms. These ships allowed Russian oil to continue flowing even under sanctions. Now, the UK is directly targeting that shadow fleet, blacklisting ships and banning British insurers from covering any vessel that carries Russian oil above the price cap. Since the vast majority of global shipping insurance goes through London, this restriction is devastating. Without insurance, most ports will refuse entry to those vessels, effectively grounding them. Another critical aspect of the UK action is timing. The sanctions come at a moment when Russia's economy is already under stress from declining global demand and rising production costs. The Kremlin has been spending heavily on war production, and its rainy day funds once filled with oil profits are running dry. Britain's intervention accelerates that decline, potentially turning a slow economic bleed into a financial collapse. The move also reaffirms the UK leadership in global sanctions enforcement. While some European countries have hesitated to take tougher stances, London has become the driving force behind tightening the screws on Moscow. This positions the UK as a central actor in Western strategy, something Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government has been keen to emphasize. By striking at Russia's energy sector, the UK is not only helping Ukraine but also reinforcing its own post-Brexit influence on the global stage. It's also important to understand the broader strategic implications. Cutting off Russia's last lifeline doesn't just hurt its economy, it undermines its geopolitical leverage. Energy exports have always been Putin's most powerful foreign policy tool. He used gas supplies to manipulate European countries, secure loyalty from allies, and threaten adversaries. But now, with markets shrinking and infrastructure under pressure, that influence is fading. Europe, once dependent on Russian gas, has largely weaned itself off. The UK, Norway, and other suppliers have stepped in to fill the gap. LNG imports from the US and Qatar have surged. Renewable energy investments are rising faster than ever. In short, the West is becoming immune to Russia's energy blackmail, something unimaginable just 3 years ago. This shift leaves Putin cornered. Without his oil dominance, his ability to fund both war and diplomacy collapses. Inside Russia, the economic pain could lead to unrest. As prices rise and wages stagnate, public frustration may grow. Already, reports suggest regional budgets are struggling to pay salaries and pensions. For a regime built on the illusion of stability, that's dangerous territory, but Putin is unlikely to sit idle. Expect retaliation, cyberattacks, disinformation campaigns, or attempts to disrupt global energy markets. Russia could also deepen its partnerships with countries like Iran and North Korea, trading military technology for access to new markets. The Kremlin will try to adapt, but every adaptation gets more desperate, more inefficient, and more costly. Meanwhile, Ukraine stands to benefit. Every ruble Russia loses is a blow to its war effort. Reduced oil revenue means fewer drones, fewer missiles, and less capacity to sustain the prolonged conflict. Western military aid can then have a greater impact as Russia struggles to replace losses and maintain logistics. For ordinary Russians, however, the pain will be severe. The government will likely respond by raising taxes, cutting social spending, and devaluing the currency. The elites may shield themselves, but average citizens will bear the brunt of sanctions and war fatigue. Already, tens of thousands of skilled professionals have fled the country since the war began. The UK actions could accelerate that brain drain, further weakening Russia's economic prospects. Globally, the impact will ripple through energy markets. In the short term, prices might rise slightly due to reduced Russian exports. But as alternative suppliers step in and Western economies adjust, the long-term effect could be stabilization. For countries dependent on Russian oil, this is a wake-up call to diversify. For energy traders, it's a signal that the era of easy Russian oil is coming to an end. Diplomatically, the UK actions could also force difficult choices for nations that have remained neutral. Countries like India, which have benefited from buying discounted Russian crude, now face increasing pressure. London's sanctions target companies, not governments, but the message is clear. Trading in Russian energy comes with growing risk. Many of these nations depend on Western financial systems, so the cost of staying aligned with Moscow is rising fast. In essence, Britain's strategy is not just about punishment, it's about isolation. By cutting Russia out of the global financial and energy systems, the UK is ensuring that Putin's war machine runs out of fuel, both literally and figuratively. It's economic warfare at its sharpest, executed through law, finance, and intelligence rather than missiles and bombs. This operation also reveals how modern warfare extends beyond the battlefield. In today's world, power is measured not only by military strength, but by control over resources, trade, and technology. The UK actions show that targeting those systems can be just as effective as any military strike. It's a quiet form of warfare, one fought through sanctions, blockades, and financial pressure, but it's equally capable of bringing nations to their knees. As this economic siege tightens, Russia's options shrink. The country faces a choice: continue an unwinnable war while its economy implodes, or seek a way out through negotiation. For now, Putin seems determined to double down, but history has shown that no empire, no matter how defiant, can sustain itself once its lifelines are cut. In the coming months, watch for new alliances forming, old ones breaking, and financial shocks rippling through the global system. Britain's move could be the start of a wider campaign, one where every loophole, every hidden tanker, every secret deal is exposed and shut down. This is not just about economics, it's about sending a message. The message is clear: aggression has a price, and no regime can fund war indefinitely when the world stands united against it. So while tanks still roll and missiles still fall, the real battle might be happening quietly in shipping routes, energy contracts, and financial systems. The UK decision to cut off Russia's last lifeline could be remembered as one of the defining moments in this long struggle, a turning point that finally shifts the balance. And as this new phase begins, one thing is certain: Putin's nightmare has only just begun. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think? Will the UK sanctions finally cripple Russia's war machine, or will the Kremlin find another way to survive?